Now and Then, Here and There, or as I usually refer to it as, Then There, Here Now, You Know What I Mean, is an anime whose appearances are totally deceiving. On its surface, its characters appear sweet and innocent, which is true. However, the story is anything but that. Keep in mind, I started watching the anime completely blind and had no idea of what I was getting myself into, so yeah, it was quite the shock. But the easiest way that I can describe what Here Now Then There is, or the experience of watching it to you all, is basically like your generic Spirited Away fantasy film where you have a character who's sucked into another world and he alone is the only resistance, the only person who's capable of saving this other world from total destruction at the hands of a psychopathic big baddie. The main difference between the two is that here, they basically take the drama, the violence, and the maturity and crank it up to 11. The story follows Shuzo Matsutani, a stoic and energetic kendo practitioner who totally sucks at kendo. One day, Shuzo finds a young girl sitting on top of a smokestack, so he climbs up one just to say hello, when, much to his surprise, the girl on the smokestack is actually being hunted by people from another dimension who whisk them both away to their world. In this alternate dimension, the world is practically dominated by Hamdo, who has got to be the most brattiest and annoying villain that I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot because I recently reviewed Escaflowne.
You just refuse to hand it over?
I'm telling you, I want...
How dare he defy me, the little bug! The bug!
King Hamdo.
Yeah, he's a really bratty guy, but I don't think I added in the point that he's also one of the creepiest villains you've ever seen either.
Eat it, La Roo. Come on, eat it, La Roo. Where the hell did it go? Where is it? Where is it, La Roo?
In addition to being a total creep, Hamdo takes advantage of both La Roo's secret power as well as child slaves in order to continue dominating his planet. Hamdo's army consists of children who were kidnapped at gunpoint and parents often murdered, and these kids were forced to perpetuate the problem, raiding and pillaging nearby villages and capturing more child slaves. The children are typically obedient to the commands of Hamdo because they don't really have any other choice, and any dissenting voice is usually killed off. Plus, they're cooperating under the hopes of being able to return one day. Now, the reason why I compare this to a fairy tale earlier, which are typically children's cartoons, and this has got lots of death and violence and everything here, is because of the story structure. It's so black and white, and there's such a stark contrast between good and evil here. You've got, on the hero's side, you've got the stoic, knight-like character who has little regard for his own well-being and is willing to sacrifice his life to save anybody here. Then on the villain side, you've got the total opposite of that. You've got this chaotic, psychopathic character who's willing to kill anybody, even little kids, and do such terrible things to people. So it's so black and white, and these characters just don't develop, so it can feel like the primary forces within the series, both the good and the bad, just come off as being very one-dimensional, which kind of feels like a cartoon. So having said that about the main forces, the hero and the villain, I don't want you to think that this is going to translate over to the story being bland as well, because that's anything but. There's so many dramatic moments here that I feel like anybody who watches this anime at one point or another is going to find themselves on the edge of their seat, and all of this is brought about simply by how well they flesh out the conflict in the story. Here you'll find characters who walk through hell and back. They watch their families get killed, there's little kids that get shot, there's people that are getting raped, there's torture, there's all sorts of terrible things that happen here, and I can understand there's some people that may feel like this show is bordering on or just delving into the melodramatic, because there are a fair amount of anime out there who benefit from just putting cute characters into terrible situations just to make the viewer feel bad. But I don't feel the same thing when I watch Here Now There Now. I think this is actually just trying to depict war, because war is not going to be all sunshine and candy here. It's actually going to be terrible, and I feel like they depicted the scenario of war very well when they did this. On top of that, whenever there's a big tragic turn of events, there's always this big long silent pause after it just to let it all sink in. If there's a line between creating a story with cheap emotion and a detailed story capable of sacrifice, then Here Now What Why sure walks that line. The fact of the matter is, Here Now There When is not going to be for everybody. Some people are going to find this just to be too dramatic and heavy-hitting for them to enjoy. Like 12-year-old black critic guy over here.
That the show is very depressing. Very depressing. It is not my type of anime genre. I don't expect myself to ever watch this anime again.
The way that I felt when watching Why Here What was that there was always this looming pressure, this weight on my shoulders when I was watching it, because I could not wait for the episode that Shu would escape Hollywood. Yes, that's his real name. They actually call it Hollywood, but I was just waiting for that so that he could go on some adventure or something, because there was so much heavy-handed drama that was handed out here. But the thing is that never fades. There's always this looming oppression over the characters that Hamdo could any moment just start wrecking everything. I think it's apparent that the creators of this anime, which by the way is an anime original, meaning that A, it's going to be complete, and B, they can actually shape the story to be what they want it to be, I think it's obvious that it's their prerogative to make the viewer feel as uneasy as they possibly could. One thing I kept wondering about through the entire series was the history of Lala Ru and the true history and nature of her power and where it comes from. I'll save you the spoilers. Obviously, she has a special power that's disclosed early on, and we also see a little bit of how it works as well. So there's a brief understanding of what it is, and why she was taken advantage of, but they actually go further later and explain how there's numerous people who always wanted to take advantage of her and start wars by using her power and taking advantage of her, but we never truly learn who she is and why she has that power to begin with. I don't think it's necessarily important to the overall story, but I'm sure it's got to be on the minds of everybody watching this anime. So as I've already stated, all of the major characters, the hero, the villain, the mysterious heroine, they're all just one-dimensional characters, but this is another case where the side characters are far more fleshed out and interesting despite taking up less screen time. Here we have Naboka and Boo, two young soldiers who are forced to fight for Hamdo. They dream of one day being able to return home, which is ironically not a goal that Shu appears to share with them, despite being taken from everything that he knows and being injected into this completely different world. As far as I'm concerned, they totally dropped the ball with Shu here. They could have just replaced him with Ichigo from Bleach and the story would probably be no different. Naboka and Boo both struggle with the weight of the horrors they have to commit in order to both stay alive and one day return home. Naboka is more accustomed to this than Boo because I guess he's a bit older, maybe he's been doing it for a little bit longer, we don't know, but you can definitely tell that they truly resent everything about Hollywood and have just no power to stop it. There's also Sarah, who is strangely enough the only other person from Earth here aside from Shu. She's kept as a prisoner, and she's forced to do terrible things to survive. I'll let you find out for yourself, but I will say that she probably has the most torment out of all of the other characters in the series combined. Now, the strange thing about Sarah was that she was captured by Hamdo's men because she looked a lot like Lala Ru. And while we never really got the explanation of what her powers were, I think it's easy to infer that they were powers of teleportation because there's really no better logical explanation here. The problem is that if they were looking for Lala Ru and found Sarah, how are they able to kidnap her from Earth unless they already had the power that Lala Ru has in the first place, which we assume is teleportation. They also managed to teleport there in the first episode to confront Lala Ru and Shu, which still doesn't make any sense. There's also Sis, who is a mother to numerous orphan children who were either escapees from Hamdo or just orphans created by Hamdo's war here. She struggles with keeping the village at peace because there's factions of the village who try and sneak out and assassinate Hamdo, which doesn't really work because they're totally outnumbered because there's so many soldiers on his side, and she knows that it will never end due to them being outnumbered here, and she's experienced firsthand how bloodshed constantly begets bloodshed. So after completing the anime, I came to the conclusion that I think this would have been a lot better if Shu never existed and one of the side characters just took his place as the protagonist here. And as far as the ending is concerned, I felt like it wrapped everything up. Well, maybe not everything, because you're still going to have a few questions, but they're probably not going to be questions that are relevant to the major plot here, but I felt like it had a pretty dramatic ending there that I did enjoy. As for the presentation, the art and animation are both on point. The characters' emotions are well displayed through their expressions, the fights are intense with fluid animations, and the world feels massive. Even Hollywood itself feels like this labyrinth of corridors that would be impossible to navigate through. I watched what, half in English and half in Japanese. I like watching dubs normally, and I have a pretty high tolerance for a dub. If it's not the best, it's still fine to me, but I would recommend watching this with the Japanese audio. They had some pretty noteworthy voice actors here, but I feel like it just didn't do as good of a job as the Japanese version did, and I felt like some of the voices were kind of annoying. Overall, why is not for everyone, but if you do love both fantasy and drama, then I think you're really gonna enjoy this, and it's gonna be easily a must-watch. Have you seen Now and Then, Here and There? I got it right that time. What did you think? As always, if you enjoyed the review, be sure to drop a like and also share the video with some of your friends, because that is really the only way that the channel's gonna grow at this point. And if you're not subscribed yet, then hit that button, because if you don't, I'm gonna use Lalaru's power to teleport inside of your house at night and put sliced pickles in between your toes as you sleep, and trust me, I don't think either of us want that. This anime was recommended by viewers who support the channel through Patreon. If you'd like to recommend an anime for me to review, because I do choose one a month, then head on over to the Patreon. There's also loads of bonuses as well, such as early videos and even a Discord group chat where we have a chat once a week, and occasionally we'll watch anime together as well. If you'd like to help support the channel, because these videos would not be possible without viewer support, head on over and check it out. I'd like to give a special thanks to The Undefeated Magician, Marcus, Warpbait, Rob the Durotaku, Ben Johnson, and Light Lelouch for their support, and everyone else who supports the channel through Patreon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all Sunday with my live stream on my Bob Samurai Live channel, and Monday with weekly anime news. Have an awesome week.